Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. Coming up in the show, Taiwan city volunteers are preparing clothes that will be given to Syrian refugees in Jordan. As Taiwan suffers from low food sufficiency rate, researchers are looking for a new strain of rice to fight drought and salinity. In today's feature report on Taiwan Sunset trade, we visit Huli to see the traditional method of paper making. Syria has been in conflict since March of 2011. Today, 250,000 Syrian refugees fled their homes, with 70,000 of them now in Jordan. City volunteers are preparing for the upcoming winter aid distribution in Jordan, which will include second-hand clothes donated by residents from Taiwan. Let's take a look.
When Yang Xi heard of the clothing drive for Syrian refugees, she knew she had clothes to donate. It's winter and my grandson won't need it anymore, so I brought it to donate. City volunteers at Taiwan's Shipai recycling station are collecting, checking, and mending second-hand clothes in preparation to send them overseas to those in need. It's a waste to throw it away, so I'm mending it. When worn, this is very warm. Hoping to give the Syrian refugees a ray of hope, volunteers take extra care to present the clothes. Because it's respectful to clean and present it nicely, this way when they receive it, they will be happy and filled with love. Last month, Goodwill Ambassador Angelina Jolie visited the Zatari refugee camp in Jordan, hoping to bring more awareness of the problem in Syria.
And when I asked them, what did you bring, they say, this, the shirt on my back.
The Zatari refugee camp at the border of Jordan is about 70 kilometers away from the capital of Amman. City volunteers plan to distribute relief items that include second-hand clothes, blankets, and more, hoping to help around 30,000 people. With the clock ticking, volunteers at other recycling stations are quickly gathering more winter clothes. It's a summer piece. Syria is cold. Besides considering weather-appropriate pieces, color is also a factor. Dark-colored winter jackets are the most welcome.
These are all still in good condition. To sell them in bulk at 10 NT dollars per kilogram is not worth it.
Tzu volunteers in Kaohsiung are not to be left out in the winter clothes donations. One by one, the clothes are sorted by gender, size, and each piece is worn with love. I think we Taiwanese are so lucky that we are able to help out other countries in need.
It feels great to be here helping. Otherwise, after I have finished my housework, there's nothing for me to do at home.
Factoring in that 50% of refugees are children, dark-colored winter coats for kids are also in great need. We don't need any adult-colored clothes in red. We are most in need of children's clothes of all ages, male and female. Hoping to bring a little love to those who had to flee their homes, the second-hand clothes will not only keep Syrians warm, but also light up their hearts.
Indonesia, for the local residents of a nearby village in Bandung, to get to the city, the fastest way is to cross a bridge. In 2009, the bridge was destroyed by floods and was never rebuilt, thus causing a great deal of inconvenience for local residents. This year, city volunteers joined efforts with the military in the reconstruction of a new bridge for the local residents.
In order to get to the city, whether it is to school or to buy groceries, residents of a nearby village in Bandung, Indonesia must cross this river, because the connecting bridge that was once here was destroyed in a flood.
When we came to assess the area here, we learned that it takes up to 1.5 hours for the children to get to school. Without a bridge, it creates an inconvenience for the local residents to travel to the city.
This has had a ripple effect on the community. Because of the distance, vendors had to finish up earlier in order to get home before dark, which has affected their earnings. In collaboration with the military, Tzu Chi set out to build a solid and durable bridge for the local residents.
I'm truly thankful to you for building this bridge. Now that it is accessible, I will be able to travel to different places to sell my goods. I feel this will improve my income.
The construction of the bridge started on June 2nd and was completed 40 days later, improving the quality of life for local residents. This bridge not only serves as a bridge connecting villages, but also a bridge which connects the compassion and love of Tzu Chi and the residents.
Malaysian Tzu Chi volunteer Chen Jia-yi sustained serious injuries to his left eye, after which he flew to Taiwan to see doctors at the Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital for treatment. Despite the late hours, as soon as he arrived in Taiwan, Mr. Chen was sent to surgery, and thanks to the teamwork of volunteers and medical staff, his left eye was saved. 2 a.m. in the morning, the emergency room at Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital receives a patient with a ruptured eyeball. After quick examination, Mr. Chen is sent to surgery.
The wound is about 1 centimeter, and we had to go into surgery to see if we could stitch up the wound. The surgery took about 2 hours, and for now, his left eye is okay.
5 days after the surgery, the doctor visited Mr. Chen to check on his wound. Mr. Chen, who flew from Malaysia, says that he is thankful to the Tzu Chi volunteers and medical staff that helped him get his treatment in a smooth manner.
When I arrived in Hong Kong and got ready to fly to Taiwan, the ground staff said that doctors from Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital called and said that I would be able to get the surgery right away. After I arrived in Taiwan, the volunteers and doctor were already waiting for me. I think there's no other medical team that can compare to this team.
Thanks to the teamwork of volunteers and medical staff, Mr. Chen's left eye was saved. However, he still needs further treatment to make sure he can keep his eyesight. As salinity of farmlands threaten Taiwan's already low food self-sufficiency rate, researchers in Jia-yi are looking for ways to come up with a new breed through interbreeding of native dryland rice, which is resistant to drought and paddy rice.
In August and September, southern Taiwan is filled with verdant green rice fields. But as one gets closer to the coast, many fields seem to be unused and abandoned.
We can't grow anything there. It is too salty. It has been like that for about 10 years. We don't have a water reservoir here. I've basically abandoned all my fields.
In the past decade, as his rice fields became wasteland, this farmer tried to switch to raising onions or sweet potatoes, but without luck. Too much fertilizer and not enough rain has made his fields too salty to be good for any crop.
If the water in your soil has 0.4% or higher salt content, we describe that as salinization of the soil. Anything above 0.75% and you have a serious case of salinization.
Over 15% of farmland in Taiwan shows excessive levels of salinization. If that number reaches 20%, Taiwan will no longer be able to produce sufficient grain to feed itself.
During the seedling stage, those strains with higher resistance to drought and salt, we grow them in this seed house. Here the sprouts are safe from excessive rain or other dangers.
10 years ago, as Taiwan's farmland was faced with rising salinization, Jia-yi's Wu Yongpei began working to create a saline-resistant strain of rice. Starting from the strain TN67, after gene modification and several generations of breeding, he seems to have made a breakthrough.
This is normal water used for crops. Here the water has a salinization of 2.0. As you can see, some of them are dead, while some still live. But in all of them, their roots have shortened. Our goal here is to cultivate strains of rice that are first resistant to salt and then later resistant to drought. So right now, we are interbreeding the salt-resistant and drought-resistant strains.
After years of interbreeding, the new saline-resistant strains were recently introduced to Tainan salty farmlands. And after 2 years of hard work, progress seems to be at hand.
The salinity threshold we expect our plants to be resistant to is about 2 times higher than normal. We use 2.0 salt water when breeding, so they have a bigger resistance to adverse conditions.
Wu Yongpei's research on creating resistant strains is actually a part of a larger 20-year plan.
This imitates the environment that Aboriginals would have lived in the past.
Over the course of his research, Jiayin University professor Liu Qidong has gathered 50 different strains of dryland rice. After a selection process, he came up with around 10 strains that show steady yields. This dryland rice is in fact quite different from the more commonly seen paddy rice.
The stalks are very upright, making the plant quite tough and resistant to collapse. Even in the wild, with no special care, it will successfully grow and reproduce. So this type of plant requires very little labor, fertilizer, or pesticides to cultivate. It can grow just fine using organic farming methods.
After the Japonica strain of high-yield paddy rice was imported from Japan, dryland rice was no longer cultivated on a large scale. Yet, despite its relatively low yield, dryland rice has a natural drought resistance. Therefore, the Agricultural Research Station in Jiayi is trying a hybrid of paddy and dryland rice.
The later generation of hybrids will be much better than what we have here today. Their tiller and overall growth, as well as yield, will all show improvement over the rice we have today. Also, they have used at least 1/3 less water.
Agricultural science is working to overcome Taiwan's soil problems of high salinity and lack of water. Thanks to its dedicated researchers, Taiwan's new generation of rice breeds seems to be poised to save the day.
Back in 2011, when Australia was severely affected by the floods, Tzu Chi volunteers conducted large-scale aid distribution in the city of Ipswich. After the floods, the affinity between Tzu Chi and the citizens continued as the mayor of Ipswich invited the volunteers to promote recycling and vegetarianism. On October 17th, the mayor paid his very first visit to Taiwan to learn more about Tzu Chi.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mayor Paul Pasali from Ipswich in Queensland, Australia. This is Councillor Cheryl Bromwich. We're here in Taipei and Taiwan to say thank you.
The mayor and councillor of Ipswich City visit Taiwan to express their gratitude to Tzu Chi's continuous help for their citizens back in Australia. They come to learn the 4 major missions of Tzu Chi, as well as visit the Tzu Chi Humanitarian Center.
Being a politician, it's good when you can tell the news rather than be part of the news.
Seeing the enlightened ones painting, the mayor soon takes a photo.
When I see the master, I think about love, compassion and peace. When I saw her face, I thought I must have my photo taken to remind me of my experience, and I look forward to meeting her in person. It'll be a wonderful, wonderful experience.
The CEO of DaAi TV, Tang Jianmin, accompanies the mayor during his stay. At the end, the mayor takes photo with everyone to remember the wonderful experience in Taiwan.
Moving to Malaysia, teachers at the Nippon Tabo Tzu Chi Kindergarten taught students how to make eco-friendly musical instruments with recyclables. Later, the students performed in an education center for challenged children. Besides the performance, students also gave their toys to the children and celebrated birthdays with them.
We made these music instruments with recyclables.
Under their teacher's guidance, the students at Ningbo Tabal Tsuji Kindergarten make eco-friendly music instruments using recyclables. They then put on a performance at an education center for challenged children in southern Seberang, Perai, to spread the idea of giving material things a second life. Everyone is singing happy birthday to bless those with birthdays this month. Some students even give their toys to the children.
I hope they are happy to get my toys.
Thanks to their teachers, these students are taught to spread love and cherish the resources they have.
The traditional method of paper making has been slowly disappearing. In the past, Nanto's Puli had over 40 paper making factories. However, today there are only 6 left. To preserve this slice of culture, one paper production owner, Huang Huanzhang, decided to turn his factory into a tourist attraction. In today's feature reports on Taiwan Sunset Trade, we visit Puli to see how paper is still being made in the traditional way.
Many precious resources are hidden in nature. One such example are dried plants, which can be used to make paper. To lower cost, many paper makers import resources from abroad.
These are imported tree barks. When they come in, we first have to soak them in water, after which we then boil them for approximately 1 day. After boiling them for a day, next we rinse them in here.
After a day of boiling in big pots and 2 to 3 days soaking in water, the mixture is stirred until it becomes mushy. The next step, however, is where the real challenge lies. Using a bamboo sifter, these masters need to make sure the mixture is evenly spread out.
We have to shake it so that the paper thickness is equal, and then we pour the rest out. If not, it will be too thick. We use our past experience to judge.
The difficult task not only requires strength, but also a good eye for detail.
We have to suck the air out. If not, these blister-looking bubbles will grow bigger, and the paper will not be smooth. There will be frame impressions on it.
Set aside for a night, the wet paper is then put into a presser to soak out the water. Finally, the half-dried paper is baked in a 100-degree dryer.
If you're not careful, it will break easily when you hold it up like this.
A big brush is used to even the paper and squeeze out the air.
If we are not careful and just casually brush it, the paper will be uneven. So we must stay focused, and there's a certain way of making sure the paper doesn't crinkle.
The handmade paper takes approximately 7 to 8 days to complete, and the owner of this factory, Huang Huanzhang, handles the quality control by checking through each stack of paper. Since taking over the family business from his father, the industry as a whole has declined and sales are down by 80%.
About some 30 years ago, in Puli, we had 42 paper factories. Now we only have 6 left. The decline of the industry is mainly because of the low birth rate, as well as the mass-produced paper from abroad that sells for cheap.
To ensure his business continues on, Huang has turned his factory into a tourist attraction.
I realized making paper is really difficult, so I will cherish it in the future.
It is great that we are able to let our children know how paper is produced, so they will appreciate this resource even more.
Apart from handling the tourist attraction, Huang also devotes himself to creating craft paper. From abandoned firecrackers, cow manure to a variety of plants and flowers, all are Huang's inspiration for his craft paper.
Truth to be told, if this industry wants to survive, we will have to expand our business in other areas. For example, the developing of craft paper, which means that the paper I make is not purely for calligraphy, but anyone can use it as a decoration.
Huang Zhang is working hard to ensure that the traditional art of papermaking shines on.
Continuing with our reports on the winners of this year's 10 Outstanding Young Persons Award, today we take a look at the story of Bula Ruiyang, who was inspired by the Cloud Gate Dance Theater and decided to devote the rest of his life to dance. At first, his decision was not supported by his family, but luckily, under the guidance of the founder of the Cloud Gate Dance Theater, Lin Huaiming, Bula Ruiyang has become a well-known choreographer. He hopes to return to his village and inspire the children there to have the courage to follow their dreams. This is Bula Ruiyang, who comes from the Paiwan tribe in Taichung County, Taiwan. During 9th grade, he decided to apply for dance school, a decision that was not supported by his family. However, the founder of the Cloud Gate Dance Theater changed his life.
At first, no one said anything, and then a teacher asked me if I got admitted to the school, would I come to study? I just nodded my head and said yes, and the teacher that asked the question was Lin Huaiming. In 1995, Bula Ruiyang composed his first dance composition and soon started to make a name for himself around the world. This year, he was also awarded the 10 Outstanding Young Persons Award. From the very beginning, I knew that I wouldn't be rich. It sounds like a choreographer can earn a lot of money, but not really. We work really hard and are spiritually wealthy.
After winning recognition from around the world, Bula Ruiyang's next plan is to go home.
I received recognition from around the world. However, the children and people in my village may not know what I'm doing. So I decided every summer I have to go back there. In the future, Bula Ruiyang will be bringing the art back to his village as he hopes to inspire the children there to have courage to follow their dreams. To send their love to the refugees from Syria and Jordan, Tzu Chi volunteers in central Taiwan arrived at the Tzu Chi Holy Liaison office to pack second-hand clothes. While packing, the volunteers found an old jacket with money inside the pocket. The volunteers quickly brought the money to the police office, hoping to return it to the owner. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.